So I'm Helen Ross, East Midlands NHS Sustainable Development Lead and Honorary Member of the Faculty, and we're really interested to hear, you're the President-elect and you made it clear that sustainable development is a priority for the Faculty. Why do you think sustainable development is important to the Faculty?
Well, for me this is a really important issue. We understand how human health, like animal health, is affected by the habitats that we live in and how we interact with that environment. I think that understanding and that insight is something which very much lies behind the thinking of the new public health, and it differs from the Victorian approach to public health, which was very mechanistic, focusing on sanitary issues and imposing solutions on the environment. I mean, what we now realise is we have to work with the environment and not impose ourselves on it. I mean, Thomas McEwen, realised that it's when habitats change, when you get rapid urbanisation or movements of population or other kinds of change of that kind, disturbing the balance, that you get new diseases, you get changes, we've seen the emergence of cardiovascular disease following the adoption of a sedentary lifestyle in our towns and cities. So I think for me, it's at the heart of a modern public health agenda, is that interaction, how we live, as we said in Healthy Cities, when we set up the Healthy Cities project, where people live, love, work and play, this is what shapes your health destiny. So for me, this is going to be a big thing once I take up the presidential role.
Okay, thank you. And what do you think the Faculty can do about climate change and sustainable development and carbon reduction?
Well, we have the most amazing resource. We have about 3,000 members who are assets. They've got skills, they've got expertise, they've got knowledge, they've got motivation. I want us to map that expertise. I want us to mobilise that expertise. And I know that there are a lot of people in our membership and friends of the Faculty who are passionate about sustainable development. So I want to liberate that energy, I want to focus that energy. We had the sustainability interest group from the UK PHA. I want to reactivate the UK PHA special interest groups. So I think this will be a home for those who want to make a difference, and I'm really inviting everybody to get involved and to use the Faculty umbrella and the Faculty brand to be a place that people will come for expert scientific opinion, for advocacy, and I want the media to turn automatically to us when they need a comment on something, for people to be able to play in with their own specific expertise.
That's fantastic. And as you know, the East Midlands NHS Sustainable Development has done a lot focusing on carbon reduction and in terms of travel, energy in buildings and particularly NHS buildings, hospital food, NHS forest, a whole variety of things. Do you have a message for the network today?
Well, I do. I think the reinvigoration of town and country planning is very much part of the new public health agenda. It's very much part of the Healthy Cities agenda. It should be part of the health services estate agenda. The Victorians, in trying to deal with pollution of rapid urbanisation, finished up with segregated cities. You had residential areas, you had work areas, factory areas, you had recreational areas and so on. The city form, the town form, the village form for the future needs to revisit the sort of integration that was to be found in medieval communities. You don't need to live a long way from work. You can use the internet to work. With an ageing population, we've inherited a model of urban design from the 60s, an American model where everybody ran everywhere in cars and you didn't have bus routes and so on. Well, the sad fact of the matter, people living into their 80s, into their 90s, you finish up with an enormous number of widows actually living on their own, carless by the time they get to 85, isolated, depressed. We've got to revisit the Siamese twin relationship, really, between town and country planning and public health. And our hospitals and our health centres are all part of that. In Cumbria, where I've been working, I challenge the health service to say, well, if they're building a health centre, are they building sheltered housing nearby? If the housing investment is taking place by whoever it is that considering its location in terms of community health facilities, social facilities, the ability for people to maintain independent living as long as possible, to have their own front door, be able to go along the street for a drink, have the nurse drop in, with an integrated approach. You find this very much in market towns in Scandinavia. You'll find a range of supported living near a health centre on the main street in a market town, and yet here we're still investing money every year in housing forms that date from the immediate post-war period and aren't suitable for the kind of demography that we've now got.
Yeah, and I suppose another thing sprang to mind was about procurement and commissioning using the NHS budget in a sense to make that sustainable.
Well, my experience that goes back a long way to Mersey Regional Health Authority in the 1970s, actually, when Howard Seymour and I actually looked at how the NHS spent its money, and the famous example was that we were spending, I don't know whether it was £500,000 or £1 million a year on papier-mâché bedpans that were being transported from Kent to Merseyside, and we discovered it was perfectly possible to tool up a couple of men in a workshop locally to be able to produce the same product. Yeah. And you know, that way of thinking about looking about supply chains, about how you can support local labour, and how you can add value to the local economy, ought to be very much part of what we're about. And with the new agenda in local government, the agenda of local enterprise partnerships, there are opportunities to raise these issues.
That's fantastic. Thanks very much for your time, John.
Okay, thanks, Helen. Okay.
Brilliant.
That's all right. You got that?
Yeah.